Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. And today we'll be discussing the theory related to the chapter Biodiversity and Conservation. This is the part 1 of the lecture, and in today's session we'll be discussing NCERT section 13.1. This is the disclaimer. So let's understand today's objective. What are the objectives of today's session? So first we will be talking about the different level of biodiversity. Next, we will understand the importance of biodiversity, that why biodiversity is important for the earth, for the humans also. Next, we'll also identify the threats to the biodiversity. So today, first of all, I will give you a brief introduction of this chapter so we'll understand what is biodiversity. What does it mean? Then we'll be talking about the topic biodiversity, which is NCERT section 13.1. Then we will summarize this entire session. We'll also discuss some NCERT based questions which are based on these topic that we are studying today. There will be some keynotes that will help you memorize these topics and concepts. In the end, there will be some interesting questions that will enhance your critical thinking ability. So let's start with today's session. So first we will talk about the diversity of life. Okay, so life's diversity, a source of wonder and inquiry. Now, if an alien visits Earth, that alien visitor would be amazed by Earth's biodiversity. Now, this perspective helps us to step back and see our planet with fresh eyes, appreciating the incredible range of life that we sometimes take for granted. So, you can see there are variety of life forms present on Earth. If you go outside, you can see various species of insects, various species of plants, okay, animals, birds, even microorganisms that you cannot see with your naked eyes. Now, humans are fascinated with the variety of life forms present on the earth. Okay, so as a human, also, we are quite fascinated by the biodiversity, by the various, you can say, life forms present on the earth. Now, let's talk about some of the examples of this biodiversity. First of all, you can see, let's talk about the ants. So, there are over 20,000 different species of ant. And these ants, they are found almost everywhere on the earth. Each species has its own unique behavior and role in the ecosystem. Now, let's talk about the beetles. So, there are about, you can see 300,000 beetle species, or you can say 3 lakh beetle species. Now, let's talk about the fish. So, with 28,000 species, fish inhabit nearly every aquatic environment, from deep oceans to mountain streams. So, their diversity in form and function is a great example of adaptation to different habitats. Finally, orchids. So, nearly 20,000 species of orchid exist, each with its own strategy for attracting pollinators. So, you can see there's a lot of biodiversity present on the earth. Here in this image, you can see biodiversity of the organism. So, you can see various life forms present on the earth. You have different species of the flowering plants. You have different species of fish. You have different, you can see here, you can see in this image different aquatic animals here. There are different species of this aquatic animals. Then you can see there are different species of insects as well. Okay, now let's understand what is biodiversity. How can you define biodiversity? So basically, biodiversity is the number of life forms present on the earth. Number and the variety of life forms present on the earth. Okay, so you can see the heterogeneity or the diversity in our biosphere, it is immense. So biosphere is basically collection of all the ecosystems present on the earth. So you can think this world as a giant library with millions of different books, and each book is representing a unique species or genetic variation. Now, this diversity is present at all levels of biological organization. From the smallest building block inside the cells to the largest ecosystem. So you can say varieties everywhere. So you can start from atoms, then molecules, okay, the macromolecules, then cell, then tissues, here, then organ system. You can say then an entire organism, population, communities, biome, and biosphere. So these are all different level of biological organization. So diversity is present at all of these levels. Now these levels range from macromolecules which are present within the cell to the biomes and then to the biosphere as well. The term biodiversity was popularized by sociobiologist Edward Wilson. So this is very important point here. Edward Wilson helped bring attention to the importance of studying and protecting the variety of life on Earth. Now, biodiversity was defined as, you can say, as the combined diversity present at all the levels of biological organization. Okay, so Wilson used biodiversity to describe the combined diversity at all levels of biological organization. So it's not just about counting species, it's about understanding the complexity and connections among all living things. Here in this image again, you can see the variety of life forms present on the earth. So you have different variety of plants, then animals, then aquatic animals, then birds, then insects. Okay, now let's talk about the important types of biodiversity. So the first one is genetic diversity. So this is the variety of genes within a species. Okay, let's talk about how can you define genetic diversity. So high diversity within a species means that individuals can be quite different from each other, even if they look similar. Means this diversity is found in the genes. The genes, they have all the information for, you can say, building up the organisms. So high diversity shown by a single species at the genetic level. Over its distribution range, this is known as genetic diversity. Means there is a diversity in the genes of a single species. Examples include, what are the examples of genetic biodiversity? So let's take an example of Rauwolfia vomitoria, which is a medicinal plant. So here it is a medicinal plant growing in different regions of Himalaya. Now each population of this plant have unique genetic traits. Now these plants can vary in the potency and concentration of the active chemical reserpine that they produce. So these plants, they produce a chemical known as reserpine. Now their potency as well as concentration of this chemical is different in different plants. Okay, in different Rauwolfia vomitoria. So you can see there is a variation within a same species only. Okay, they are producing the same chemical, but the potency of this chemical and the concentration of this chemical is different. So this is the direct result of genetic diversity within a species. So here you can see in this image, this is a image showing you Rauwolfia vomitoria plant. Okay, now let's continue our discussion about genetic diversity. So, other examples are that of rice. So, rice is a staple food for billions of people, and its genetic diversity is crucial for food security. Now, India has more than 50,000 genetically different strains of rice. So, this represents India's high level of genetic diversity within the rice species. This genetic variation indicates the wide range of genes and the characteristic present in India's rice populations, which is a critical component of overall biodiversity. Another example is that of mango. India has more than 1,000 varieties of mango. So, this shows how much genetic diversity can exist within a single species, providing a wide range of flavors and uses. So, here in this image, you can see rice and Indian mango varieties. So, you can see there are a lot of genetic variation which is present within a species. You can see, let's talk about this mango. So, there are different varieties. You can see Alfonso, Totapuri, okay, Basarium. Okay, so this is the genetic diversity within the same species. Okay, now the second type of diversity is the species diversity. Okay, now let's see how can we define species diversity. So species diversity refers to the diversity at the species level. In other words, it's about the different kinds of living organism found in a particular area. Now, species diversity, it refers to the variety and abundance of different species in an area. So, species diversity is not just about the number of species but also their abundance. For example, a coral reef with many types of fish and lots of each type is more diverse than one with only a few species or very few individuals. So, basically, they are saying that species diversity is the variety and abundance of different species in an area. So, here we are taking into consideration different species in an area. Now, species diversity can be measured by the first one is species richness. Okay, so the first component is species richness, which simply means the number of different species present in an area. For example, a meadow with 20 types of flowers has higher species richness than one with only 5 types. Now, second is the species evenness, okay, which means relative abundance of species. So, species evenness, this looks at how evenly the individuals are spread among the different species. If all species have similar numbers, the evenness is high. If one species dominates, the evenness is low. Okay, so this is very important. Species diversity can be measured by species richness and species evenness. Okay, let's continue our discussion about species diversity. Let's have a look at the example of species diversity. So, you can see there is a biodiversity. Let's talk about biodiversity at Western and Eastern Ghats. So, these mountain ranges are great for comparing species diversity in different regions. Now, remember that Eastern and Western Ghats are mountain ranges on opposite coast of India. This geographical separation help create different environments for species to live in. So, they are different environment, okay, in the Western and the Eastern Ghats. So, environment is different. Why is environment different? Because of the geographical separation between them. Western Ghats have a greater amphibian species diversity than the Eastern Ghats. So, the weather in the Western Ghat, it supports greater amphibian, you can say, species diversity. Now, this difference shows us how species diversity can vary between geographical areas. It's a clear example of how location and environment influence the variety of life. Here in this image, you can see biodiversity which occurs in the Western Ghats. So you can see Western Ghat represents about 25 to 30% of the biodiversity of India. And you can see here there are a lot of species of mammals, reptiles, birds, and amphibians as well. Now let's move on. Next one is ecological diversity. Let's have a look at the definition of ecological diversity. So, ecological diversity means having many different types of ecosystems, like forest ecosystem, desert ecosystem, wetlands, and some other kinds of ecosystem in one region. So, these all ecosystems are present in just one region. So, this variety allows for a greater range of living things to survive and thrive. Okay, so basically, simply you can say that ecological diversity refers to the variety of different ecosystems within a given geographical area. Example of ecological diversity. So, India is a perfect example. It has deserts, rainforests, mangroves, coral reefs, wetland, estuaries, and alpine meadows all within one country. So, this shows how much diverse ecosystem can be in a single region. So, mangroves are the area which have very high salt concentration. So they have salt tolerant plants. Okay, and then coral reefs, they are underground ecosystems built by hard corals. Then if we talk about wetlands, wetlands are areas saturated with water, supporting unique plant and animal life. Then estuaries, estuaries are the coastal areas where the river meets the sea. Here the river water meets the sea water. Okay, so there is a mixing of fresh water and the salt water here. Okay, desert and rainforests. We already know desert we have xeric conditions. There is lack of water. In rainforest, you can see there is a lot of diversity because there is a lot of sunlight, lot of rainfall is there. Okay, which supports biodiversity. Okay, so because of this, India has greater ecosystem diversity than a country like Norway, which has fewer types of ecosystems. This greater diversity supports more species and more complex interactions. So in this image, you can see the ecological diversity of India. You can see there are various ecosystems present in India. Okay, we have deserts also, we have mountains also. Okay, then we have, you can see estuaries, alpine meadows. Alpine meadows are basically the grassland ecosystem. Here, trees are replaced by the grasses. Okay, now let's talk about the necessity for biodiversity conservation. Now, millions of years of evolution have created Earth's rich biodiversity. So you can see evolution is a slow process, it is ongoing, and evolution has resulted in incredible variety of life we see today. Now, the current rate of species loss risk erasing this diversity in under 2 centuries. So basically, the rate of extinction is very high, and this is because of the human activities. So there is a risk of losing this diversity under 2 centuries. So human activities like habitat destruction, pollution, and climate change are accelerating the rate of extinction. Okay, now biodiversity and its conservation are now critical global environmental concerns. So now you can see because the rate of extinction is very high, that's why biodiversity and its conservation are now critical global environmental concerns. So protecting biodiversity is a priority for governments, scientists, and communities worldwide now. So this is because biodiversity is important for our survival and well-being on this planet. So why we want to conserve biodiversity? Because biodiversity is important for our survival and well-being on this planet. Okay, so biodiversity provides us food, medicines, clean air, as well as water. We are getting everything from the nature. We are getting all our resources from the different life forms present on the earth. From the plants, we are getting food. We are getting medicines also from the plants. So plants, they produce secondary metabolites. They have bioactivity. Okay, the secondary metabolites, they have bioactivity. They have bioactivity. They are bioactive compounds. Then these plants, they clean the air by fixing carbon dioxide. Okay, then water is also available from the nature. Now let's talk about how many species are on Earth and how many in India. Okay, first let's talk about the global species inventory. Okay, so here we will discuss how many different kind of species share our planet. Okay, now let's talk about recorded versus total species. Okay, so you can see here, we know the number of published recorded species, but not the total number of species present on the Earth. So scientists have a count of species that have been officially recorded and published, but the total number of species on the Earth is still unknown. Because these species are present in remote areas, we are not able to reach these remote areas. And basically, there are a lot of species of prokaryotes. Okay, so we have not even studied these prokaryotes because these are very tiny. Okay, here, so that's why the total number of species is huge, but the, you can say, species which have been classified, characterized, these are very less. Okay, let's talk about the IUCN estimate according to 2004. Now, the IUCN, which is International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, is an organization that monitors and reports on the status of species worldwide. Okay, so they report on the status of the species worldwide. According to IUCN, just over 1.5 million plant and animal species have been described so far. This number gives us a sense of the scale of our knowledge, but also hints at how much more there is to be discovered. So, you can say just over 1.5 million plant and animal species have been described, they have been characterized, they have been named, but still there is a lot of species that have not been even discovered yet. Now, the unknown number of species yet to be discovered. So, there are a lot of species that are yet to be discovered. Now let's talk about the challenges scientists faced when trying to estimate the total number of species. Now estimates of total species number can vary widely and are often based on educated guesses. Okay. Now, so we can only guess the total number of species. Now another challenge is that our inventories are much more complete in the temperate regions than in the tropical regions. So this means we know more about species in places like Europe and North America than in Amazon rainforest. So the temperate regions have less biodiversity. So we can easily record the species because number of species is less, biodiversity is less. Now the species inventory is not complete in tropical regions because tropical regions they have a lot of biodiversity. So they have a lot of species. Okay. So it is difficult to complete the species inventory in the tropical regions. Now, most scientists believe that the vast majority of undiscovered species are in the tropics. So these areas are incredibly rich in biodiversity, but also harder to explore. Okay, that's why species inventory are complete in temperate regions than in the tropical regions. If you're talking about the global species inventory, let's talk about the statistical comparison. Okay, so this means scientists do statistics to compare species numbers in different regions or groups. So biologists compare temperate tropical species richness in well-studied insects group. So initially what biologists did, biologists start by comparing species richness between temperate and tropical regions. Okay, and they focused on a well-studied insect group. So they were studying the species richness of a particular insect group in the temperate and the tropical regions. For example, they might look at how many butterfly species live in a temperate forest versus a tropical rainforest. Okay, so we are taking this insect as a butterfly. Okay, so we are giving an example. Maybe they are looking at a particular butterfly species in both temperate and the tropical region. They are looking at their species richness. Next, what they do, they take the ratio they found in the insect and apply it to other groups like plants and animals. So, okay, they have calculated everything for a particular insect group. They have they have calculated the species richness of a particular insect group like butterfly. Then they use this ratio, okay, and they apply this ratio to other groups like plants and animals. So it is very similar to using a sample from one part of a cake to guess the ingredients in the whole cake. So basically, this method help these biologists to estimate the total number of species across different types of organism. Okay, so based on the species richness of one insect, they can calculate the species richness of other groups like plants and animals because everything is interrelated. One species is dependent on the other. A goal of these comparison is to get a rough estimate of total number of species present on the earth. Okay, so this is important to note that this is a broad estimate, not an exact count, because many species are still undiscovered or not well studied. Let's talk about species total estimates. So here we will talk about the actual numbers scientists have proposed for a total number of species present on the earth. Now some estimates are very high, suggesting there could be between 20 to 50 million species worldwide. So this shows just how we still have to learn about life on earth, especially in unexplored regions like deep oceans and dense rainforests. More conservative scientific estimate was given by Robert May. So he said there are in total 7 million species globally. So this is the more scientific estimate, 7 million species globally. And this was accepted. Let's talk about the overview of Earth's biodiversity. Okay, now let's take a closer look at the animal dominance in Earth's biodiversity. So this means that out of all living things we have identified, animals make up the largest group. Over 70% of recorded species are animals. So this is the huge majority, showing just how many different types of animal exist. Most of these are insects, which are incredibly diverse and found almost everywhere. Now let's focus on proportion of the plants. While animals are the largest group, plants are also a major part of biodiversity. They provide the energy for most of the ecosystem through photosynthesis. Plants make up no more than 22% of all known species. Even though we see plants everywhere in terms of species count, they are outnumbered by animals. Still, their role is in supporting life is essential. Plant species include not just trees and flowers but also algae, bryophyte like mosses, gymnosperm like pine trees, and angiosperms, which are the flowering plants. Each of these groups has unique features and ecological roles. Here is an image representing the global biodiversity proportionate number of species of major taxa of plants, invertebrates and vertebrates. So you can see here, okay, the diversity of invertebrates such as crustacean, mollusk, insects, and then if you talk about vertebrates, you can see the diversity in the within the vertebrates. So in within the vertebrates, we have fishes, mammals, birds, reptiles, and amphibians. And then let's talk about the plants. Okay, here you can see fungi is actually not the part of the plants. Fungi, they are a different kingdom. Okay, but still they have shown it here. Now you can see there is a lot of, you can say, diversity within the plant kingdom also. So you can see angiosperm, they are occupying the maximum space here. So means there's a lot of diversity within the angiosperm, which are the flowering plants. Then you have, you can see mosses, ferns, and you can see annelids as well as lichens. Okay, let's talk about insect supremacy. Insects are not just numerous; they play a vital role in pollination, decomposition, and as food sources for many other animals. Okay, now insects are most diverse animal group. This means they have more different species than any other animal group, including mammals, birds, or fish. Now, their adaptability allows them to thrive in almost every environment on the earth. So, insects, they are adapted in such a way, they have such adaptations which help them to thrive in almost every environment on the earth. Okay, so these insects can be found everywhere. So, they have a very small size, so they can occupy almost every ecosystem. Okay, and they have high reproduction rate. Okay, so that also adds on to their high, you can say, species level. Okay, or it adds on to their high diversity. Insects account for over 70% of all animal species, making them the most species rich taxonomic group among the animals. So these insects are included under the phylum Arthropoda. Now, for every 10 animals, 7 are insects. Okay, so this simple ratio helps us visualize their abundance. Okay, let's talk about the fungal diversity now. Fungi are often, okay, not talked about, but fungi, they also play a very important role in the ecosystem. They act as decomposers. Now, fungi include mushrooms to molds, and they play a very essential role in breaking down the dead material, and they also help in supporting the plant growth. Now, the estimated number of fungal species on Earth is higher than the combined total species for fish, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals. So you can see there is a lot of diversity in the fungus as well. This is an image representing the global biodiversity here. Okay, so here in this image they are showing you biodiversity of invertebrate, vertebrates as well as the plants. What are the challenges in estimating prokaryotic species diversity? Okay, now prokaryote, they include bacteria and archaea, which are the primitive bacteria. Understanding their diversity is crucial for ecology, medicine, and biotechnology as well. A lot of enzymes has been isolated from microorganism, and you can say a lot of products are being made in these microorganisms such as E. coli. These E. coli, they are being transformed, okay, and a certain product like insulin is being produced in yeast and E. coli. Now, current estimates of species diversity do not include prokaryotes, which are unicellular organisms, and they lack true nucleus. So this is the major gap in our understanding of life on Earth, since prokaryotes are everywhere, from soil to our own bodies as well. Next, biologists are not sure about the number of prokaryotic species. Unlike animals or plants, it's very hard to even guess how many different type of bacteria and archaea exist, because we cannot see them and they multiply very fast. Okay, so they can be present in millions and billions. One reason of this uncertainty is that conventional taxonomic methods are inadequate for microbial species identification. Okay, so why we are not able to estimate prokaryote species diversity? Because the current taxonomic methods or conventional taxonomic methods, they are inadequate for identification of microbial species. Another challenge is that many prokaryotic species are not culturable in the laboratory conditions, so we are not able to culture them in artificial media in lab. This means we cannot grow them in lab to study them, so they remain hidden from our view. However, if we use biochemical or molecular criteria, such as analyzing DNA sequences, the estimated number of prokaryotic species could reach into millions. So this shows just how much diversity is still waiting to be discovered. Let's talk about the biodiversity present in India. Okay. Now let's talk about the India's land area. So India occupies roughly 2.4% of the Earth's total land area, making it the seventh largest country by land area, but it's a home to a significantly larger proportion of the world's population and biodiversity, which contributes to its high population density and makes it a mega diverse country. Okay, let's talk about the species diversity. So this means the number of different type of living things found in India. So it's not just about quantity, but the variety that makes India's biodiversity so impressive. India's share of global species diversity is 8.1%. Okay, so this is the fact that you should remember. So because of this, India is considered one of the 12 mega diversities country in the world. These countries are like diverse biodiversity hotspots, holding a large proportion of world's species. Okay, what are the total number of recorded species in India? India has nearly 45,000 species of plants and about twice as many animal species have been recorded. So that's around 90,000 animal species. Okay, this is clear. Now let's talk about the estimation of undiscovered species in India. Okay, let's talk about the Robert May's global estimation. So this is the key scientific approach to understand how much biodiversity is still unknown. According to May, only 22% of all species have been recorded so far. So this means that vast majority are still out there waiting to be discovered. So you can see there are a lot of undiscovered species in India and globally as well. So we can use Robert May's global estimation, okay, to estimate the undiscovered species in India as well as globally. Okay, now let's see what happens when we apply this global proportion to India. Since India is so rich in biodiversity, this calculation becomes even more significant for us. Now, based on this estimate, over 100,000 plant species and over 300,000 animal species in India are still undiscovered and undescribed. Okay, what are the challenges and concerns related to estimating undiscovered species in India? Now, completing the inventory of India's biological wealth is a very daunting task. Okay, so there is a need for immense trained power. So we need more taxonomists because we have vast undocumented biodiversity with species facing extinction before they can be discovered and described. Second, the processes require significant time. Discovering, describing, and documenting each species is a slow and careful process, much like reading and summarizing every book in a massive library. Now, a major concern is that many undiscovered species are threatened with extinction before we even find them. Okay, so a situation has been created now. Now, the phrase nature's biological library is burning even before we catalog the titles of all the books stocked here highlights the irreversible loss of biodiversity. Once a species is gone, its unique information and role in the ecosystem are lost forever. Okay, now let's summarize this entire session. So, we talked about the biodiversity, the three kinds of biodiversity. We talked about the genetic, species, and ecological biodiversity today. Okay, now you can see the estimated number of species on Earth is around 7 million, but only about 1.5 million has been described. Animals dominate. Okay, clear? Now, insects, they are the most diverse group within the animal kingdom. Clear? And there are more number of animal species as compared to plant species. India, despite its small land area, contributes significantly to global biodiversity and is a mega diversity country. Remember this. Now, many species remain undiscovered and are threatened with extinction before being catalogued. Okay, this is because of high rate of extinction now due to human activities. Let's discuss some NCRT based questions. The first question is who popularized the term biodiversity? You have to choose the correct answer from the options given below. So options are Robert May, Charles Darwin, Edward Wilson, and IUCN. What will be the correct answer? Correct answer is option number C, Edward Wilson. So Edward Wilson popularized the term biodiversity. Okay, here through his influential writings and lectures. Now, his book titled Biodiversity played a crucial role in bringing this concept to widespread attention. Wilson is known as the father of biodiversity due to significant contribution to the study and conservation of biological diversity, which included coining and popularizing the term itself. Other options are incorrect here. So, Robert May did not popularize the term biodiversity. Then, Charles Darwin, he gave the theory of natural selection, and IUCN is involved in conservation. It is not responsible for coining the term biodiversity. Next question, which type of diversity is represented by different varieties of mango in India? Choose the correct answer from the option given below. Species diversity, ecological diversity, genetic diversity, and ecosystem diversity. What is the correct answer? Option number C, genetic diversity is the correct answer. So what is genetic diversity? It refers to the variety of genes within a single species. Okay, this genetic diversity is perfectly exemplified by the numerous variety of mango found in India. Another example is that of rice. Why other options are incorrect? So species diversity involves counting the number of different species in an area where varieties of same species such as different mango types are not counted as separate species. So if we talk about multiple mango varieties, this is the genetic variation. It is within the same species. Ecological diversity specifically refers to the variety of ecosystems within a given region or globally. And then ecosystem diversity refers to the variety of different ecosystem present in a region. Okay. It is quite similar to ecological diversity. Next question, according to IUCN 2004, approximately how many plant and animal species have been described so far? You have to choose the correct options from the below. Options, option number is 1.5 million, then next one is 7 million. Option number C is 20 to 50 million, and then last one is 300,000. So what is the correct answer? So option number A, 1.5 million is the correct answer. Now scientists had described just over 1.5 million species of plants and animals by that time, though this number is a relatively small fraction of total estimated species that exist. The data from the IUCN was okay, okay, or you can say data from the IUCN that was reported in 2004. What has it said? So this data that 1.5 million species have been described so far. This was given by IUCN in 2004. Let's discuss some keynotes. Okay, so animal constitutes over 70% of the recorded species, while plants are only about 22%. This is a fact that you should know. Insects are the most species-rich animal group, making up more than 70% of the all known animal species. The Western Ghats, for example, contain a greater diversity of amphibian species as compared to the Eastern Ghat. Okay, so India, you can see India have only 2.4% of the world land, but it holds 8.1% of the global species diversity. India is one of the 12 mega diversities country of the world. Remember this. The Western Ghat exhibit greater amphibian species diversity as compared to Eastern Ghats, as we have discussed. Some interesting questions that you have to analyze critically. Question number one: which group of organisms make up the largest percentage of species on the earth? The next question: why are biologists uncertain about the exact number of prokaryotic species which are single celled, unicellular, they lack true nucleus? Then the next question is: despite having a small land area, why is India considered a mega diversity country? And the fourth question is: according to estimates, how many species in India are yet to be discovered? Now, next question is: if you were a biologist and a new species were discovered, what would be the step you would take to catalog and name it? It's a very interesting question. Okay, so with this we have discussed the theory. Now let's discuss the DPP related to this chapter. Let's discuss the first question. Which of the following best describes the latitude gradient in species diversity? Option 1 is diversity increases as we move from equator to poles. Next, diversity decreases as we move from equator to poles. Next one, diversity is highest at the poles. And last one, diversity is uniform across all latitudes. What will be the correct answer? Here, option number B is the correct answer. Here, actually, diversity will decrease as we move from equator to the poles. So, at the equator, the diversity is more as compared to the poles. So, this is what is known as latitudinal gradient in species diversity. Next one, according to species area relationship equation, log S is equal to log C plus Z log A. What does a steeper slope indicate? Okay, which is the Z value. Options are lower species richness per unit area, higher species richness per unit area, no correlation between area and species, and last one is linear decline in species with area. So what will be the correct answer? Here option number B is the correct answer. Okay, so higher steeper, you can see steeper Z value between zero point 0.6 to 0.12. Okay, this indicate higher species richness per unit area. Okay, clear. So this steeper slope you get in the case of large area like that of continents. Okay, steeper slope you can say indicate higher species area, higher species richness per unit area. Next one, which group constitute more than 70% of all recorded species? Mammals, insects, birds, and reptiles. What is the correct answer? Option number B, insects is the correct answer here. Okay, so insects which belongs to phylum Arthropoda, they are very diverse. Okay, out of 10 animals, 7 are insects. Next one, the evil quadrant refers to major causes of biodiversity loss. Which of the following is not part of this quadrant? Options are habitat loss and fragmentation, overexploitation, genetic mutation, and co-extinctions. What is the correct answer? Option number C, genetic mutations is the correct answer. Okay. So habitat loss and fragmentation, overexploitation, co-extinction, these are the part of the evil corporate and genetic mutation is not a part of this. It is not a major cause of biodiversity loss. Next one, India's share of global species diversity is approximately 2.4%, 8.1%, 12%, and 22%. What is the correct answer? 8.1% is the correct answer here. So India's share of global species diversity is approximately 8.1%. Although India occupies 2.4% area of this earth, but its share of global species diversity is 8.1%. That's why India is one of the 12 mega diversities countries. Next. Okay, clear. So with this, we have discussed the DPP also. All our answers are correct. So with this, we will end this session. I hope this session was quite knowledgeable for you. We'll meet you in the next session. Thank you very much for listening.